Roll call.
Ma'am. Ms. Gutierrez? Here. Mr. Wolf? Commissioner Edmondson? Mr. Meyer?
Present.
Mr. Vasquez? Here. Mr. Walters? Chair Martinez?
Here. That's where it is.
Bono? Also joining us is Mr. Board.
Awesome. We've got a quorum, and we move forward, and that, I turn it over to council.
Okay, declaration of voting conflicts. Do any members of this committee have any conflicts with any items on the agenda? Seeing none, we move forward.
All right. The item is open for any public comment, and if there is anyone in the in the audience that would like to speak before us, complain about the traffic, no traffic, the rain, the good weather that we're going to get this weekend, step forward. Seeing none, you got a complaint? All right, seeing none, public comment section is now closed, and we move forward to action items.
Action item A, approval of summary minutes. Joint Budget and Finance and Operations Committee meeting of January 24th, 2017.
With that, do I hear a motion?
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against can be recorded. So we're going to miss our treasurer, and we salute him and thank him for his service. Continuing to move forward.
Item B, MDX Work Program number 92404, State Road 924 extension west to the Homestead extension of the Florida Turnpike. Endorsement of a local agreement with Miami-Dade County, the City of Hialeah, and the City of Hialeah Gardens for the construction of Northwest 107th Avenue from 138th Street to Northwest 170th Street.
All right. With that, we turn it over to Juan. Would you walk us through this item?
Yes, and good morning. Before you is the interlocal agreement between Miami-Dade County, City of Hialeah Gardens, and MDX for the construction of Northwest 107th Avenue between Northwest 138th Street and Northwest 170th Street. The interlocal agreement sets out the parameters for all the parties, where City of Hialeah and Hialeah Gardens are going to be providing the right-of-way necessary to widen that envelope between 138th Street and 170th Street, and Miami-Dade County will be providing 100% of the funding for that portion of the work between 138th and 170th Street. We will also be, basically it calls for a reimbursement of funds, even though we will be advancing most of the funds during the construction, since we're on a schedule of payments through the next 4 or 5 fiscal years, and it's laid out in the agreement on how we're going to be reimbursed for the funds that we expend. But this is something that we had been discussing for a while. When we approved the work program last month, I stated that we would be bringing this agreement back. There's a map that I provided in your folders that shows the area of influence. Basically, you see the Palmetto Expressway on the far right of the drawing with I-75 in the middle, and then the red line that shows 107th Avenue and the limits of that widening that we would be adding to our project, the 92404 west extension of the Gratigny to the Turnpike. So it all becomes one big project under the MDX control. That's
okay.
it.
I'm going to call for the question just so we can open the item for discussion. Is there a motion?
I'll move the item for discussion.
All right. The item is now open for discussion. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Juan, the contract indicates a fund up to $14 million that the county is going to pay. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What do we anticipate this project is going to cost?
That's the estimate that we have right now. We basically, what we did in working with the county is that we developed using the county typical that they want us to develop, which is a 5-lane, it's a 5-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction with the center turn lane. We estimated it based on our the project estimate with some contingency while we develop the project and further develop it for inclusion into the RFP. That project we are estimating is going to be the construction cost itself is probably going to be around 10 to 11 million, but there's also the CI part of it and also the MDX administrative part of it. So all inclusive, our estimate right now to the county was 14 million, and that's what they included in here. The agreement does call out that they are responsible for the full cost. So as we go through the project and we develop it further, we go through the RFP, we get the prices in, all that would be relayed back to the county, and they would, we would, depending on where we are at that time, if we need to come back and amend the agreement for additional monies, then we would at that time. Right now, we have what we expect to be the limit.
So, just for clarification, and Council, you can clarify, we have an out clause that in the event that it's more than $14 million, we can go back to renegotiate it? Because
yes, that's
I
correct.
just want to make sure that's
we'll
clear.
We'll set up the bid that way so that portion of the job has its own price component. And if the county does not want to fund the additional monies necessary, then we can just take that out of the contract and continue with our portion of the work.
Okay, and what would be the portion of our work that is in contingency on the agreement?
Our work would be roughly from 97th Avenue, which is just about where I-75 is, a little bit to the west of that. And it includes the work along Northwest 138th Street to complete some widening that's needed in there, and the connection to the Turnpike to extend 924 and do a direct connect with Florida's Turnpike. That's the MDX portion of the project.
Thank you. Ms. Cherokee, just one question to Council, if that's acceptable.
Absolutely.
Have you reviewed this contract, Council?
Yeah, but we did review
Staff.
it, and so did the council for Miami-Dade County. I worked with them.
And you're comfortable with the idea that there is, in the event that there's an issue, that the estimate when we begin is actually more than 14, we can remove ourselves from the contract and renegotiate it without any issues?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Right now, all we're approving is the actual agreement between the two entities.
The four entities,
The
correct.
four entities. You will be coming back with that procurement.
Yes, that we are working on finalizing a letting plan, and that project right now is in fiscal year 19 or fiscal year 20, which is middle 2019. So we anticipate that we will come back sometime in early 2019. We will come back with the approval to advertise that project so we can start the process. 2019,
and we're doing this agreement now?
Well, because we need to start the right-of-way piece. We need to start working with the entities to make sure that we acquire that they are dedicating the land that's necessary for 107th Avenue. We don't want to be in a situation.
Wait. You said something about acquire the land. We acquire the land. We need to start speaking they
I'm sorry.
and we,
Okay.
so then I understand.
City of Hialeah,
pockets.
for the portion that you see in red on the map,
Yeah.
the City of Hialeah and Hialeah Gardens need to do right-of-way dedication to allow for us to come in and widen 107th Avenue. That process needs to begin immediately. So by executing this agreement now, we would start that process with all the entities, and Hialeah Garden would start the dedication process for that, so that all that right-of-way is in place, so that when we go to construction, we don't need to be worried about what right-of-way is necessary or available or what's not there. That's going to take some time, so that's why we're bringing it now, so that we can start that process and then continue the project development.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of the portion that is our work, the work that we were planning on going into, not the work that the other team players want us?
Our portion of the work was about $85 million in total project cost. And when we approved the work program, we added the $14 million, which was the reimbursable part by the county. So altogether, it's like about a $104 million project.
So in other words, we have a bigger stake in this particular program
Correct.
than anybody else.
Correct.
Okay. One last question as it continues. Any gantries?
We are going to be proposing a tolling point on the ramps to the Turnpike as part of the project approval. And as stated, when we approve the work program, we will come back with those action items at the appropriate time.
Is it each way?
Right now, under this project, I think we're only going to be doing the westbound connection because of the work that the Turnpike is going to be doing. So we're doing the westbound piece first. So there will be a gantry both ways, but the initial action or the action that we bring may be for both directions, but we're only going to be building one of the directions initially, and then we will come back later on our second phase.
Okay. One more question on this path. When we model the the financing for this, are we modeling on today's toll pricing, or we're modeling on a different pricing?
We were modeling on today's toll pricing.
Toll pricing. Okay. Something we need to revisit, relook at, because you're telling me this won't begin until when?
2019.
2019. Okay. So it's way out there.
Yes.
Very good. I'm done with questioning. Any other questions? We all understand? No further questions? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the clarification. Okay, and with that, we move on to discussion items. And what do we have here? Road Rangers renewal?
Yes.
Yes.
We bring the Road Ranger renewal item up now because we're at the point where where we need to evaluate the contract renewal versus a reprocurement so that we have time to do what we would need to do. The Road Ranger contract began in December of 2013, and the current term expires June 30th of this year. To date, the contractor has been performing very well. In fact, their performance evaluations has shown a improving trend through the 3 years that they've been in the service. In your folders, I provided a sheet that shows the cost analysis that we did, which basically shows the MDX, the current MDX rates that would apply to the renewals. And then I'm also showing the DOT rates for District 6, District 4, Florida Turnpike, and Veterans Expressway in Tampa, which was a contract that was recently procured. As you can see by the tables, our rates are considerably lower than the state rates are right now. Typically, the state contracts for 5 years. Our contract was for 3.5 with 3 renewal options. Staff recommendation based on the rates and the way that we see it, based on where we would be if we were to reprocure this contract, our recommendation would be to see if we can go ahead and exercise all 3 of the renewals now to lock in these rates for the next 3 years. And that way we know that we have these good rates going forward. When you look at comparing to the state rates, which we know are going to be considerably higher, and reprocuring right now would almost guarantee that we're going to end up paying higher rates than we are right now. The intent of bringing this item to you today is to see if a renewal is something that we want to move forward with. If not, then we would need to start the procurement process right away.
You said the contract has 3 renewal rates.
The contract right now has 3 one-year renewal options. We could do it 1 year at a time and ask for and come back to the committee for the next, this year and the next 2 years, or we do have the option of just lumping them all together now, again, locking in these rates for the next 3 years.
What's the value of the contract on an annual basis?
The value of the contract right now, the annual renewal cost is about $2 million, $2.7 million. Approximately, you're looking at about another $6 million over the next 3 years. In total for the 6 years, you're probably being like 13, 14 million. Compared to 5-year contracts for the state, where their 5-year total is about 20 plus, you're looking at a considerable savings of $7 to $10 million, depending on who you want to compare that with and the rates. I wouldn't want to take an action right now because we want to come back with the action item for the renewal, and that way it'll allow us to, using our rates, to come back and give you a better estimate of what we see the next 3 years looking like. Since we are taking on additional roads and we are taking on now the full maintenance of the interchange, we might have additional services out there. So we want to be able to come back with a better estimate that covers the full 3 years, but we're still looking to be somewhere in the $6.5 million range over that year period, but always keeping these contract rates fixed.
Right, but doesn't the contract call for any additional roads being added into the contract, keeping it the same pricing?
The rates, but we can add service. So if I add another truck, another incident management vehicle or a wrecker, we would pay that additional wrecker at the rate. So the contract holds the rate, but we manage the service as needed. So during peak hours, we have more trucks out there. During off-peak, we'll lower that so that we, look for efficiencies on managing the contract. We know we're going to be adding on extra miles that may require additional areas to be covered by other incident management vehicles or records. So that gives us a flexibility. In the initial 3-year term, we had a $7 million range cap. Over the 3.5-year period, we've been managing that contract, the service as needed. We've provided additional services when we know that we're going to have additional events. During construction, we assisted the Section 5 project with services here and there. Overall, we're going to be about $6.5 million over the 3.5-year period. When we're done with the initial term, we feel that we're going to more than likely be in that range for the next 3 years.
Questions? It's not ready for an action item. Yes.
Thank you for the time, Madam Chair. Is there a cancellation penalty?
There's always a cancellation clause in our contracts that at any time we can cancel for cause and go out at any time.
No, but I mean on the non-renewal. There's no penalty for non-renewing.
That's correct. There's no penalty for non-renewing.
What's the value of the switching cost to a new vendor?
The value is really the startup. For a new vendor coming in, it's the fleet. It's the initial investment of the fleet. So in this case, this was a new vendor that got this contract. The vendor basically purchased the fleet, and you calculate that the fleet is going to be good for a period of about 5 to 6 years, which is why typically the state has that 5-year contract period, because you take advantage of the useful life of the vehicles that are part of your fleet now. That's why this 3-year extension for us allows us to keep the fleet that we have now without the vendor having to incur additional costs of new vehicles.
You cite rates for 5 other contracts.
Yes.
Are those all the same suppliers, or is there an active supplier base?
I'm sorry.
Is there an active supplier base? Are there a number of vendors that can provide the service?
Yeah, because typically the vendors are like towing and record companies that come in and will bid on these projects, and it's throughout the state.
I'm just going through a process right now of a no bid renewal, and my client has asked me to what discount would I offer him or her if I renewed, and we went and did the process. Could we do our procurement rules allow us to say to this vendor, we will renew, would you provide us with a renewal discount?
I don't think so. I mean, Helen would have to address that question.
I believe that this contract already included a provision that if we were to extend, we would extend at the contract price, because this was a low bid procurement. So,
I also want to point out that this contract, one of the things that we added to this contract when we went through this process, aside from adding the option of the smaller vehicles, which afforded us some of these more cost-effective pricing, we also indexed for fuel on this project based on the current year. So depending on where the gas prices fluctuate, we are able to take advantage of when gas prices drop. And, on the contrary, they would be compensated for when gas prices increase. I can tell you that from the time that we entered into this contract, there was a moment where prices dipped, and we were able to index in our favor. Prices has hence come up to where they were at the bid year, so now you're kind of paying the contract price. But that's an incentive that we brought to this contract that really allowed us to maintain these cheaper prices.
I think following up of what Member Board said, I think there is an opportunity, even though the contract already spells out and dictates the procedure, given the fact that you're saying perhaps we renew all 3 years, given that this is annual renewal. If we take advantage and we pull the trigger on 3, I think we need to get something from them too, because it gives them 3 years. 3 years to plan and spread out what they've already invested. So for us and for them, that's how a partnership works. Can't be just one-sided. I think the opportunity is now to take advantage of the idea. It's a good business practice to go in and put it to play. especially if we're even thinking of 3 years.
Madam Chair, that is appropriate. That's why we bring this to you for discussion early. We've done that in the past with other vendors. We've had those conversations. We'll bring back to you an item, and we will discuss everything that potentially could be on the
Right.
table, and then take the appropriate action with all of the disclosures.
Because if not, there's no benefit on why do it. Might as well just go year to year and see
what
what's
you're
out
saying.
there, because then you leave your options open on, hey, competition is good. And there's a lot of people out there. I see the truckers and, these tow trucks everywhere. So it's a good opportunity.
We'll take it back we'll bring it back. We just wanted to, at this point, what we wanted to just make sure is that what we want to move forward with is a renewal, so that we can start working in that direction. And that way, because if not, then we would have to start the procurement process earlier.
We all like the renewal concept. I don't think we have anything against the renewal concept, but I think that there's a new idea on the table that we like to really explore before we go any further on anything, and especially even thinking of 3 years.
Understood.
I think 3 years would be off the table because we can opt with one.
Understood. Thank you.
What do you think, Board?
I think I agree. If they're not going to give us a discount for giving them a 3-year deal, then let's just go to year to year.
Yeah.
What's the incentive for us?
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
It's a government agency. We don't know how our tolls are going to be, up, down, low, this month is good, next month is not. Here comes a hurricane.
Thank you.
And with that, we move into the informational items. And there's one, and it's funny that it's F, okay? Of all the things in the world, of all the letters for it to be, it's not an F project, but it's listed under F. If I asked for this item to be put on the agenda so we can get an update on this. This is a very high-profile particular project, and the PD&E is ongoing, and I wanted to hear where we're at. Thank you.
What happened here?
Oh, did you have?
There we go. Okay. So yes, Madam Chair, you asked us to provide an update on the 836-18 State Road 836 Southwest Extension. This PD&E began in December of 2013. Since then, we've held many agency and stakeholder coordination meetings. We held an alternative corridor evaluation and recommendation of alignments in last summer in 2016. And in this first slide, what I wanted to show you is basically the blue outline is the study area in its whole, and then you can see all in green all the different alignments that we initially looked at. And as part of the corridor analysis, we ended up with 2 viable alternatives. The one that you see in green that starts from where we end at 137th Avenue, that comes down to 8th Street, near the area between roughly 147 and 157 and 167th, and then jogs south to southwest 136th Street. So that's now the 2 alignments that we're looking at. We are planning on holding an alternative workshop by fall of this year, with public hearings anticipated for fall of 2018. And that's where we would finalize the study and then move forward after that to the next phase, which would be design and construction. Today, we have received strong support from the residents of the West Dade area in favor of this project moving forward. And then, as a point, and something that we brought back, that we actually presented last month as part of the work program approval, there was an opportunity to break out a portion of this project by adding to the Turnpike contract now, and it's in the work, and it was approved in the work program, the 836-34 project, which are the ramps that connect the Turnpike directly to the extension, and that was always that was included in the original study area. There was an opportunity to advance that project now with the Turnpike, since they're going to be doing their widening. So bringing this in now is really in support of the future alignment that we're looking at.
What do we need to do in order to move forward?
Well, we need to continue with the next steps of the process, which is finalize the corridor analysis for the two alignments that we have now, and get the preferred alignment, and then finalize and do the public hearing.
Can you go back a slide, Juan? I think this is very telling because Juan and I were talking about, we're advancing a portion of the construction, which is an connection to the turnpike, but the real way to advance this corridor, the study, the PD&E, the study is predicated on getting approval and consensus from the community. The community is not just the people that live out there. It's the regulatory community, it is the environmental community, it's all of the different communities. So when we put these schedules out there, we're affording everybody to have plenty of input. We're also doing a parallel process with Miami-Dade County on the Comprehensive Development Master Plan, because all our projects have to be included in that process. We're actually, and this is something that I say here, and I've said it publicly in the past, we're getting tremendous support from Miami-Dade County's what's the name of it? The planning department, whatever their planning, environmental resources people eat. We're getting tremendous support from them because the alignment we've set actually accomplishes a lot of land use issues that they're concerned. This could actually become a hard line on the UDB. This is a discussion that's been going on, so we're getting support from them. There will be hurdles with the environmentals, and that's what a lot of the analysis that we're doing right now. But as long as we continue getting the full support of the community, the people that live out there, there's always opportunities to bring these forward. The less analysis we have to do, the less proving the negative, because it's always proving what impacts and trying to mitigate. The less you do, the better you can condense the project.
Madam Chair, quick question to the director. With a good portion of that area is outside the UDB, how is the county treating these areas for purposes of this extension? In other words, is the UDB narrative going to be, is the text going to be amended to provide for this, or are these areas being contemplated to be brought in to the UDB for purposes of this project?
That's the question.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for that one yet. Okay, that is the question.
But if you look on this particular slide, if you look how we have it separated into the segments, as we clear the environmental hurdles and as we continue to receive the support, this is where the opportunity to advance the phasings come in. The fact that we were able to advance the portion with the turnpike is because there we had the least amount of hurdles to jump over as it pertains to the PD&E and the environmental. Also because the turnpike was already going through that process and they included that portion of our scope into their analysis. So that allows us to do that as we continue to move south and west. And within that first segment, that's an area that's going to have less environmental hurdles than segment 2 and 3. So there will be opportunities to seek opportunities to advance phasings of this particular project.
Right.
How many total miles?
It's about 10 or 11 miles total.
It's a nice big project. I know the answer, but I want to make sure that we all understand. We currently do not have the design and construction funding.
We do not.
What are we going to do in terms of moving forward to figure out a financing analysis and discuss how this project is financed?
That gets developed during the project, but we can start looking at that with Marie and her team. And
there's a lot of talk that there's a lot of money, and I wanted to make sure where is that money?
If I can, Juan, the other day at the county commission, they had their council meeting, and these issues come up. And I was pressed by various commissioners to commit a percentage of our revenues to transit, to the SMART plan. And obviously, I cannot do that. We are restricted through our bond covenants and so on. But one of the analogies I used was the PD&E processes that we participate in, and I used the analogy of the extension of the Gratigny East. That's a project that is going through a PD&E process. There is no construction money in our work program, and there will not be because it's not real until it goes through the entire PD&E. Once it goes through the entire PD&E, we have an alignment, we know what the costs are, we know what the impacts are. Then if it's a project that we want to advance, then we put together a finance package that would include where the toll gantry is going to be, how much needs to be leveraged, how much needs to be borrowed, what can be covered with the existing revenues. All of that process is yet to come, so it needs to be real. This is the same thing. We have elements of this project that became real, like the ramps, but the rest of the alignment, until you don't go through this environmental process, it's not real yet. So that was we don't have the money is the point.
Madam
It's
Chair.
not out there.
Follow-up question to that. Using examples like 874 and when you were at this phase with that project, in a perfect world and with all the other things that we know we get caught up in, how many years out is this project based on where we are today?
Based on where we are today, I'm comfortable to say, because of the impacts, because of the way we're getting the support from the county, because of the way we're mitigating the impacts, I'm very comfortable. But that in the fiscal year 18-19, we will be having a conversation on how to finance and put out phases of this project.
Okay, continue answering the question.
Yeah, 2 years
10
from
years?
now. No, 2 years from
No,
now.
that's
Yeah.
funding and no. I am talking
starting
about.
construction.
construction.
You
And
wanna
again,
know
I'm not
when
going to
it's
hold
all-
you to a time for
you want-
estimate.
You want to know the whole 10 miles? You know, gosh.
Depends on how much money.
That's inside
Huh?
of.
Depends upon what the funding advance, if you do in phases and all in one.
Yeah,
or do we have all
if,
one?
it depends on the financing.
There's a lot of parameters because it's.
Forward us this presentation, of course. That would be great.
It's important that we start the financing package, the conversation of the financing package, okay? We already know there's two great alignments. Either one works. Either one is perfect and unique, and I've heard a lot of good background noise from the residents in that area. Okay? I worked a lot of real estate when I used to do the advertising, and a lot of the public there is very happy with what's happening. Obviously, the need is there. That's what it's all about.
Correct.
I think we need to start working on the financing package so we all know what we're talking about. Because there's a lot of talk that there's a lot of money, and I think what it is because we see perpetual tolling, we think there's a lot of money, but everything is tied into something. If you take a link out, you have a problem. You have to recalibrate. So the point that I want to get to is, this is a very good project, a project that is needed. Let's start looking at it a little bit closer. What kind of monies are we talking about? What kind of tollings are we talking about? And how many phases? And we do understand if there's an opportunity now that the turnpike is doing construction, then we need to step in and take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So
This is a
let's
me-
not think about it later in 2018, even though it's a year away. Let's start the conversation now.
Board Member Vasquez, this is a mega project. This is in the ballpark of 900 to 1.1 billion for construction. It is not going to be a simple finance package, and the challenges are going to be how do you mix it. And part of that mix, and we've had the conversations, might include private financing. But
And just-
all of that has a cost.
I was just having a little fun with my continue the question because I knew it didn't have an answer because of
Right.
how complex these things.
But the point is, this is a
That's
mega
why I asked
project.
them
This is not, this is a game changer. This changes how people move around in West Dade, where roughly 900,000 people live. Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair, thank you. With respect to this project during the PD&E stage, do we start evaluating potential traffic flows and impact in traffic? And
That's part of the study.
That is
So
one of the keys. Yeah.
So to that, I'd assume that the expansions we are making to the 836 are such to accommodate for increase in traffic flow if this extension did occur.
Yeah, we take into account not only the traffic patterns, we take into account the future development patterns, the future employment patterns. Because if you look at Miami-Dade County, and we've had this conversation in the past, a lot of the employment development and a lot of the development is actually occurring further west from the CBD, from the Central Business District. So what you're getting a lot of movement in the western part of the county is people who live in the west who are actually living up and down the airport corridor. And I say the airport corridor, which is the Medley, Doral, it's become a very big employment center. The traditional work in West Dade or live in West Dade and drive to the Central Business District, you're seeing less of that occurring. You're seeing more of business development happening in the northwest part of the county. And that we showed those maps when we were doing
Yeah,
the
and I think-
strategic
and
plan,
and I had
a
the
lot
number,
of
but
those
I left
maps
it
are
downstairs,
actually
but
included in the strategic plan.
Part of the study, one of the things that the study is showing that approximately about 30% of that population in Southwest Dade, their work is in Doral. So this would be a major
artery for that 30% that lives in this area that now has to contend with surface roads and turnpike to get to Doral. This is one way that you provide options and relief.
And I do have a follow-up to that. With respect, we haven't looked at exits on ramps. I mean, that's too far down the road.
It's preliminary,
at this point.
but we are looking at, we are evaluating interchanges at 8th Street and 157th Avenue. We believe we're going to be looking at interchanges at Bird Road and Kendall, and then your off-ramps at your exits or your freeway ending at 136th Street.
And then my final question with this potential project, because I wholeheartedly agree, and I actually moved somewhat closer to that area now off of Kendall and 103rd. So thankfully, I'm less than a quarter mile from our 874, which is phenomenal. But I see that buildup from west just hitting me eastbound. In terms of cost, we're talking $100 million a mile, roughly.
Pretty much.
There are those out there that are very focused on the mass transit component. Obviously, in this area, it's, I think, a little bit more challenging on the mass transit, kind of rail-to-rail concept. But comparatively speaking, what is that cost if you were to implement a mass transit solution, not a bus mass transit, but more of a hard or light rail concept? What are the costs on a per-mile basis comparison?
I mean, the last time that we evaluated cost per mile on light rail, heavy rail, it's anywhere between 150 to 200 million a mile.
Okay.
Depending on the mode.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair, I think you've made a very good point, which is from a messaging perspective, we put projects up that don't have funding and that don't have budget allocations to them. For the layman, and I include myself in that group, you see these wonderful projects that are in the future. Nobody knows what they're going to cost from a hard number perspective, and nobody knows where the money's going to come from. And that generates, from a messaging perspective, I think it creates the uncertainty that is out there, which is where are all these dollars? So I think that your decision to solicit, more project design now, so that those numbers become a little bit harder and firmer, and that we understand a little bit better what the alternatives for financing are. I think it's something that we should incorporate in almost everything that we do, because you're left without answers to very basic questions when you're out there. So I commend you on that. I think it's something we should implement in all these projects. So.
I didn't want to bombard this particular meeting, but there's others that we're also working on that the PD&E is going on, like the Gratigny, that we also need to get a better handle on it, because that would hurt if that were ever stopped. That would.
And again, we do look at that, and that's part of the overall project that we developed and finalized the PD&E. What we're hearing now, and we're going to start working on, is just do that sooner, and we can bring those alternatives and those funding options, and at least give you an idea of where we could be headed once we finalize the PD&E, and we'll start that right away.
Also, it's good to understand in any of these projects, consideration is being made to mass transit, a bus component, right?
Well, this project does include the expansion of what we're currently doing on 836. So the element of express bus service on 836 is part of the study, will be included as part of the overall construction plans, and then working with MDT on park and ride hubs that connect to and from our facilities to make those services more viable. So moving forward, all the projects that we look at will have the element of transit being able to provide their services on our facilities.
How many more PD&E studies do we have going on right now? Tomorrow?
We have two that are ongoing right now, which are the two 924. We're finalizing we're finalizing the extension to the west. I think we did the public hearing on that, and we're finalizing the documents, and then the east extension that should be finalized in.
You can bring also a presentation on those two for the next meeting. So that way we also get a handle on that and also start the discussion of what the design construction
We'll prepare that and bring it.
analysis can look like.
Yes.
I think it's better to, because there is a lot of construction going on in 836, and it's wonderful because it's going to provide something that is really needed, and that is the backbone of MDX. But I think it's important to get a very strong hold and feel on what is really happening at MDX, and especially now that we have a lot of new board members. And I don't want to point out Mr. Board as a new board member. I want to point out Mr. Meyer as a new board member, okay? Because he always used to say he's a new board member. So I think it's important for us to have a better handle and understand what's going on. I know these because I remember when I put them on the agenda that I wanted the PD&E studies funded, and I wanted it done. So for me, it's an urgency of, I was there at the beginning. I want to see how it continues to move forward. That's why I continue to want to be here and volunteer my time, because I want to see these projects finished. So, and it's going to take a lot of creative financing to figure out how we could all work together and get this done. So please, for next time.
Yes,
The
we
other
will.
two.
Thank you.
And with that, would you like to say something that we need to remember?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Real quickly, first of all, congratulations on your reappointment to the board. And I know that this goes without saying for our board meeting, but just like we've got new board members, we've also lost 4 members that have significantly put up their time and volunteer hours in serving this community. And talking about Mayor Ferre, Rick Rodriguez-Peña, Alfredo Gonzalez, and Mr. Brown. And obviously, I would just hope that we do what we always do and pay our respects to them.
We're already on that.
And thank you.
They would not forget to remember those volunteers that are
Absolutely
so
not.
awesome.
Would
But
never
I
allow
didn't
that.
want to go in and say something.
It'll be done. Of course.
And with that, we welcome the mayor and the vice chair, Audrey Amundsen, to our board. We welcome them. It's an honor for all of us to sit with them. They're leaders of this community, and this board, this agency, serves this community. And so, for the greater good, we will continue to make the right decisions and move forward. Would you like to say something, Mr. Chair?
I will have some words of welcome for the board meeting for all our new members, and words of sorrow for the ones that we have lost, that have left. Not lost, but have left.
Not send off, but thank you.
But thank you. That's what I
thank
mean.
you.
Just words of thanks.
If I can, Mr. Chair, because I think the messaging piece, it has resonated with staff of getting the word out and making sure that we're explaining to the layperson, the citizen out there, what is really going on. Today, we just sent out our second newsletter. We sent one out last month. Last month's newsletter actually had a survey at the end. The survey talked about, this is what we're working on. Everyone knows what we're working on. This is directly our users, about 56,000 that got cash back last year. We told them, this is what we're working on. This is what we're finishing. When we're done with this, where do you think we should invest our dollars? And we listed out, Madam Chair, the PD&E projects. Then we listed out investing in transit. Then we listed out all of the above. The single highest percent return project that people wanted us to invest money in is the one that we presented today, the 836 West extension. The second highest percentage was an all of the above approach. The community, the people who pay the tolls, understand that there has to be a blend of modes, but they don't want you to pick one more than the other. So this, and it was very telling because of all the stuff that's going on in the community about transit and MDX funding transit. The toll payer, over 40,000, I think, is the number that came back and filled out the survey, which is a huge amount that came back.
Wait, did you say 40,000 from 56,000?
40,000
people have
respondents.
responded
Wow.
to our
remarkable
surveys. And see, this
80%.
is our direct users. These are our direct
Yeah.
users.
That's a major
So,
universe.
You know, this is a direct user who understands that the money's being used to improve their commutes every day. Our customers use our facilities every day.
This isn't a direct user, Mr. Executive. This is a high-frequency user.
Right.
Is a resident, obviously, because of the toll usage.
Right.
But an 80% response rate is unheard of. I mean, if you get 1% to 2%, you're doing very, very well.
I will tell you this, Mr. Board, that we've already exceeded, right? We've already exceeded the number of people that signed up for the cashback from last year.
New members and transponders. We've already exceeded the numbers from previous years.
I have to tell you, I have to congratulate you because the fact that we're communicating with the people that are using our system is the number one priority. Because if you're spending time and money on everybody else, everybody else doesn't count. It's the people that you're directly affecting that are buying into the system, that are using it, and are paying for it. And that's who you need to hear from. They're the ones that will tell you, hey, I saw a Christmas tree on, what was it? 17th Avenue and 395, and it's in January. Where is that cleanup station picking up?
For the record,
you know what I mean?
37,000, because I said 40. I round. I'm an engineer. So 37,245 people responded.
It's still 70%.
21% said that we should extend the 836 south and west. 4% said that we should extend the Gratigny east to 95. 10% said we should extend it west to the State Road 112, which is one of our strategic plans. 13% said that we should partner with transit. 51.5%, 20,000 people said that it should be a combination of all of those things. They want a balanced transportation
Everything
system.
is important.
So
It's good to know.
I think we're headed the right way.
The key is you're going to continue the communication flow.
Absolutely. We're
Of
putting out
everything that is
information.
happening.
Yes, we've taken the messaging to heart, and this is, remember, when we did the cashback, the original, all of these programs were to try to create a relationship with our frequent direct users, which we didn't have access to.
So how often are you going? Are you going out monthly or are you going out quarterly?
Monthly.
Very good.
Madam Chair, if I may, also to commend staff on a great job in terms of their communication, especially via email. It was extremely easy to reapply and re-register for the program. I think I'm considered a high-frequency user because I got a cash back of $200, so I can only imagine how much I'm spending on tolls, which is greatly appreciated.
So wait a second. You get no free ride.
No, I don't have the golden pass or the golden ticket. So that said, I just want to commend the staff because they've really done a phenomenal job over the last year that I've seen in getting the message out and communicating to our investors and our users.
I also like the new system that they've done, that they send you an email in case that you're past due and that your tag has been suspended or put a hold, I think is the word. Your registration hold. Not so nice that you have a registration hold, but it's good that you're communicating via email. Do you have everybody's email, or is that not 100% yet?
A significant portion of our users have given us their email.
Excellent. It's cheaper to do it that way than it is to mail, even though mail is still cheap.
I'm sorry, what does that mean? A significant portion is what?
I don't have the exact number. Any customer from our Toll by Plate program who has an issue that we're assisting them on, as far as giving them the one-time courtesy and so forth, they opt into receiving future invoices via email, which only cost us 4 cents instead of the 55 cents that it costs us today plus postage.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to address anything else? Thank you very much for that information. It's very exciting. And with that, do I hear
Move to
motion
adjourn.
Second? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.